Hello and welcome to another Stellarian Games video. In this episode, we're going to be looking at how to make some Desert UDT. This is a flat gaming desk terrain that is very simple to make. It's almost 3 steps long, basically. To add to it, we're also going to look at how to make some of these desert dunes to go along with that UDT. The dunes are a little bit more complicated, but again, if you have a hot wire cutter, this is pretty simple and you can follow along and make some nice desert terrain. This, if you've been watching some of the other videos recently, have been featuring a lot of the desert terrain, and all of those pictures were taken on this Desert UDT, so I thought we might as well make the Desert UDT video and get that out there as well. So let's go to the table and see how this is done.
Alright, for this craft we're going to use a 3/4 inch XPS foam, and I'm just finding kind of the center point on this 2-foot circle terrain UDT. Just marking the circle and then using a spare metal bracket that I had laying around. It had some pre-drilled holes and I figured it probably had a pretty standard dimension, and sure enough it had a 12-inch mark, so I could put a nail in on one end and use a marker to draw my 2-foot circle. I'm using my circle cutting knife from Olfa and cutting out the circle of the UDT. I'm putting together some chain around my hand. I wear a glove while I'm doing this just so it doesn't bash on my knuckles a little bit. But then I'm using the chain to texture the board. I've done this on other UDTs, but just wanted to show you in a little bit more detail how the chain adds a little bit of texture all over the board. Doesn't take much effort or skill, just kind of bash the chain and you end up with a nice uneven surface. Now, taking some of the spare cutoff sections from the circle, I'm using the hot wire cutter to start forming the dunes that will go on top of the UDT. Using a very aggressive angle and then kind of progressively sloping downward to form the different shapes of the dune, just kind of conforming to that top ridge and just kind of following that pattern all the way along to make the dune shape. All of those little cutoffs, I'm just kind of using the hot wire to continue to make a bunch of little smaller dunes that can be used as part of the terrain. Then I'm using some tan house paint and a texture that's meant for adding to house paint to make textured walls or textured ceilings. I'm just adding that texture to that paint and stirring it in until I got a nice texture that I figured would represent kind of a sandy tan color for the whole board. So I'm just painting that directly onto the board. And I believe I had to touch it up just a little bit once it was done, but for the most part, I had a nice texture when just a single coat was complete. I'm using that same tan on all of these small dunes as well, so that way it all has a consistent sandy tan texture. I plastic wrapped over the container and used it for some of the other elements that would be added for the sand as well. I'm just using some black paint and painting along the edge of the UDT to just make it a little bit neater. All of my UDTs have that black edge and just makes it a lot cleaner. Alright, so there's the finished product. This is a very simple project with that sand texture in the paint that's very easy to do. But the end result is pretty basic, but works for an open sand desert. I hope you like this video. If you do, please hit the like button and subscribe, and we'll see you again next time. Thank you.